It turns out that Ukrainian biolab conspiracy, not really a conspiracy at all. Victoria Nuland from the State Department told that to Marco Rubio, said, we actually do have some things going on over there. And so the big question, of course, are these just everyday biolabs that you may have right in your backyard at home, or are these weapons? Let's see how she phrased it when she was in front of the Senate with Marco.
Ukraine has biological research facilities, which, in fact, we are now quite concerned Russian troops, Russian forces may be seeking to gain control of. So we are working with the Ukrainians on how they can prevent any of those research materials from falling into the hands of Russian forces should they approach.
I'm sure you're aware that
so Rubio goes and tries to clean that up, and we made a prior video about that. You can check that one out up in the corner. But she is really sort of carefully tiptoeing around those issues. It's a biological research facility, and so the internet went hog wild, and they found this website over on the Ukraine embassy for the United States, and it reveals to us all that they actually did play around with this biological threat reduction program. You can see here the DoD, the Department of Defense Biological Threat Reduction Program, collaborates with partner countries to counter the threat of outbreaks, deliberate, accidental, or natural, of the world's most dangerous infectious diseases. This is right over from the website of the Ukraine embassy. The Biological Threat Reduction Program in the priorities in Ukraine specifically are to consolidate and secure pathogens and toxins of security concern and to continue to ensure Ukraine can detect and report outbreaks caused by dangerous pathogens before they become a problem. And if you go over there on that website, you'll see there is a whole list of several different fact sheets there. And these are different fact sheets that are memorializing the agreements that created these new biolabs. And there's a whole lot of them. You can see we've got one here in Dnipropetrovsk. We've got a veterinary laboratory. We've got an IVM, National Academy of Sciences, was formulated. We've got an EIDSS system, a pathogen asset control system. And so a lot of these are just sort of, looks like administrative documents. But then we get down and we see these diagnostic laboratories. So over in Kherson, we've got a central reference laboratory. We've got Ternopil, Zakapartska. We've got LIV. We've got all these different institutes of epidemiology. And the list just goes on and on. There's a whole separate section, in fact. We've got a diagnostic lab here, another vet lab, a couple other diagnostics. And we're going to go through each one of those, not all of them, but I went through several of them. And we're going to see how much money the United States was, I guess, donating to these things. Of course, we know all the fact checkers said that the U.S. wasn't running any biolabs over there. Don't even think about it. We saw that from PolitiFact and other places where they said, no, nothing to do with it. Stop your fear mongering, you Putin lovers. And none of this has any basis in reality. Turns out maybe it did. So, but before we get to all of that, what is going on in these labs? Now, I want to share with you, this is what I found on the internet for a level 4 lab. This is the top level lab, and we're not going to look at any of these here that we know of, but this is sort of what we're talking about. And I wanted to just sort of detail all of this because this was new to me, that it's actually, I think, 4 levels. So it's a level 4 lab. And I was thinking, oh, what is it, like DEFCON 5 or, one of these things? It's these numbers, but apparently, according to this graphic, there are like 4 levels there. So you can see they're not actually using all 4 levels. They say this first level is level 1, then level 2, level kind of 3. They're marking it up here. But we've got 4 different main spaces. And then we've got this sort of sewer sanitary system down there at the bottom. So it's kind of 5 layers, maybe 4 level 4 lab. Okay. But there's a lot of stuff going on here. And so, of course, all of this is not going to be relevant or pertinent to these labs in Ukraine, but I just wanted to show you, there's a lot of stuff that goes into making sure these things are secure. We've got HEPA filters, and so maybe the Ukraine labs are level 2. So what do they get? Only 2 of these levels? I don't know, but still here, right? Outside air coming in, air handling unit, breathing air system, filtered air exhaust, breathing air reservoir, exhaust fans, more HEPA filters, more breathing hoses the further down you go. And then we've got, sealed doors and different decontamination systems and all this. A lot of activity going on. And of course, that's going to be very expensive. And so we're going to take a look at some of the contracts that were created that the DOD, I guess, paid for to create these labs in Ukraine. But before we do, a little bit more about what's going on with these labs. Now, we got to get some expertise. And so let's talk to somebody who I think, well, I don't know what this is going on here, but this is Andrew Weber. Andrew Weber is the senior fellow at the Council on Strategic Risks. You can see here is a picture of him from his LinkedIn. I don't know what to say or think about this photograph. Curious what you think. You know, are they friends, Mr. Weber and Obama? Or is Obama giving him the old side eye? I don't know. So anyways, this is his profile picture here. And he wrote an article here in Mother Jones. And he said here that this is going to, well, let's get some background from him before we see what his conclusion is. He says, I've devoted 3 decades to countering global threats. In different U.S. government national security positions, worked to avert dangers posed by nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons and terrorism all around the world. You can see, including the former Soviet Union. So he's got experience in this part of the world. Former heads of defense, all sorts of non-proliferation stuff. Talked about removing nuclear-capable MiG-29 aircraft from this area, threats of biological weapons from the Soviet Union. All right, so the guy sounds like maybe he, has some expertise in this area. And so he went to Georgetown. He's on the Council on Strategic Risks, and he's catching a side eye from Obama. So he must maybe know what he's doing. So here we can see that he wrote this, or was interviewed and discussed this with Mother Jones. Said only yesterday, the question to him is, Mr. Weber, you're smart, says, only yesterday I saw the Russian Foreign Ministry tweet that it had, quote, evidence of biological weapons programs in Ukraine that was funded by Pentagon. And he says, right, yeah, so there's been an escalation. In the run-up to their attack on Ukraine, the Russians started planting more articles and making more outrageous statements, including one yesterday that says that there was a campaign to destroy the evidence. And we talked about that because that's what the Russian ministry was saying. We heard from 2 different people who came out after we heard the sort of acknowledgement from the State Department. We started to see the Chinese came out and they were very excited. Said, oh, see, we told you they're BIOLABS and they probably were responsible for COVID. It wasn't us. Don't look at us. But they sort of jumped on that bandwagon along with the Russians, said the United States is responsible for all the problems in the world. And now we demand accountability so that you don't look at what we're doing, essentially. But one of the things they said, the United States, Ukraine, NATO, the Western allies and Nazis or whatever were doing was destroying all of the evidence as the invasion was happening upon them. And Weber says, not only is that just propaganda and fake, he says, that's not it at all. The laboratories are by and large Ukrainian Ministry of Health laboratories. That's it. Says they're more or less equivalent to U.S. county health labs. That's all. Not a big deal. Says they played a very important role in stemming COVID, but some of these labs do have what we call, quote, select agents. Or dangerous pathogen collections for legitimate purposes of tracking bacteria and viruses that are endemic in Ukraine. Out of fear of Russian military attacks, they made a decision to destroy these pathogen collections on a defensive basis so that they were not spread into the environment or stolen by Russian invaders. Now, kind of interesting here because this article was synthesized and summarized for us for brevity and for length, according to the author at Mother Jones. But he's kind of saying conflicting things here, right? He's sort of saying, these have been outrageous statements here. We can see this right here in the article. Outrageous statements about what's happening here, saying that we're trying to destroy the evidence. But in fact, we actually did destroy the specimens because of the Russian invaders, right? So it's sort of the action was the same. The Russians said, you destroyed specimens. You said, we destroyed specimens. The Russians say those specimens were evidence. That's an emotive conjugation, a Russell's conjugation. We also see that the Weber gentleman, the intelligence expert, is doing the same thing. Oh, no. We were, defensively eliminating our specimens, our samples, so that the Russian invaders didn't get it. But we're both acknowledging that it sounds like there was some destruction of specimens going on. Who knows if we'll ever get to the bottom of what they were. But we can take a look at the memorialization of the creation of these labs from the documents that were posted on the U.S.-Ukraine Embassy website. Here is one of them. We can see this is a fact sheet for the Zakapartska Diagnostic Laboratory Technical Assistance Project. This is the plan, the TAP, the donor. Oh, it's very nice, very generous donor. Who is it? Oh yeah, the Department of Defense of the United States. Very generous of them. They're very generous with their money, aren't they? Beneficiary, the Ministry of Health of Ukraine. And we would go through this. Now, if you go through these, and we're going to go through 5 more of them very quickly, but you can see here we've got Black and Veatch, we've got subcontractors, Exotica, we've got a number of different designers, number of different oversight people, conceptual design, and then we get to the bottom dollar. We've got the permit. The permit was for working with pathogens, and this was all issued back on, looks like May 21st, 2012, and the total cost, $1.9 million. Total cool $1.9 million to build this diagnostic lab. $1.9 million, $1.5 million for the design and the construction, and then $400,000 for the equipment. Must have been some of the equipment that we saw in those different levels in that diagram. Now, not all of it, right? But some of it, certainly, in order to make sure that it's safe and sanitary. So a cool $1.9 million on this one. And this is one of the more expensive ones. Now, we'll see that none of them go over $2 million. And they all have a very similar breakdown between the amount, the cost for the design and the construction versus the cost for the equipment. So it sort of sounds like they're just setting up franchises kind of. Oh, just here, keep it under $2 million. Make sure, about certain percent goes to equipment. The other percent goes over to construction and design. And just don't exceed your budget, and we'll just start printing these things out as quickly as you can. And so they did that. We have a couple other examples here. Over in Ternopil, same thing, same exact date, same exact generous Department of Defense. We've got some similarities between the contractors, another Black and Veatch there. And then again, this one, $1.7 million, same breakdowns, 1.3 for the design and construction, another $400,000 for the equipment and furniture. Same story over here in Kherson. Same deal here. 1.7 million, 1.2 for the design and the construction, 450,000, a little bit more on this one for the equipment and the furniture. Integrating contractor, another Black and Veatch, another subcontractor, the Techno Project, once again on the same date. Permit for working with pathogens. There you go. Here we have another one. Leave. We've got this one, 1.9 million, another almost 2, but not quite there. 1.5 for construction, 400 grand for the equipment. Permit for pathogens, also issued May 21st. And then this is our last one. We have May 21st, Kharkiv. And this is where I stopped. This one was 1.6 million total, 1.1 for construction, 440,000 for lab equipment and furniture. And the reason I stopped is because all this gear, it just went over 10 million. And I thought, well, there you go. It's a nice 10 million there. But there are many other projects that are on that list. I just didn't get to them for the sake of time. $10 million seems like good enough to see that there's something going on. And we can also see there's a pattern. So we have here 1.9. Everything was right about 1.5 to just under 2. Not one of these labs exceeded 2 million. Construction right around the same margins, right? Keeping the cost the same. Equipment is the same. Construction companies are the same, all executed on or about the same dates. I think Kherson was, so 23rd and the 22nd, I think more or less. I think that, actually, you know what, I think these were all on the same date. What this is an Excel drag and select problem. Ignore that typo. I'm embarrassed, but roughly right around the same time. But you can see exactly what's happening here. We have a lot of money going to a lot of laboratories out there in Ukraine, and we've got a lot of questions about it. Apparently the Russians do, so do the Chinese do, but we'll see if we get any questions answered or if there's anything to even ask about. Do you trust our current government based on their current record and how they've been handling questions involving health concerns of a biological nature over the last 2 years? Think it's been a little bit subpar, in my humble opinion. But I want to hear from you. What do you think about this? Are you happy with the generous donations from the Department of Defense? Let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend or family member. I'd really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one.